Welcome to Get the Balance Right, a podcast for creative entrepreneurs who challenge the status quo. I'm your host, Heather Zeitzwolf, CPA. I'm on a mission to help and inspire visionaries to grow their firms with a keen focus on their triple bottom line. Join me for conversations with purpose-driven leaders, business disruptors, CEOs, and renegades in digital media, marketing, advertising, and design. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get the Balance Right podcast. I am your host, Heather Zeitzwolf. On this episode, we are joined by Elyse Tager. She's a business coach for ambitious female entrepreneurs. After owning a media agency for 11 years, she switched gears based on a need she was encountering with her clients. She found that entrepreneurs were getting stuck in what she defines as a worker bee mindset. Now she helps women break free of those mental chains through her coaching. We discuss what got you here won't get you there when scaling your business from solo entrepreneur to CFO. If you feel stuck working more in your business than on your business, get ready to change that. All right, here's my interview with Elyse Tager. Elyse Tager, welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited that you're going to be on my podcast today.
I am delighted. Thank you for having me here today.
People can't see, but you are wearing a fabulous pair of glasses. And looks like they've become your trademark. But besides your cool glasses, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business that you started as a business coach?
Yeah, I have been a serial entrepreneur. This is my fourth business. It seems to me in my DNA. I can't get away from it. And I started out originally as a media buying agency, and then moved on I started, my second company was called Aging with Attitude, which was a website and blog and all kinds of stuff for the woman in her later years who needs to live an exciting life. And then I started as a Facebook ads agency. So I transitioned into that. And that's how I got into business coaching, because when I was running a Facebook ads agency, which in my mind, everybody needed, I found out that the people who were hiring me, I felt like I was wasting their money because there were so many things before the ad that they didn't have nailed down. They didn't really know who their target audience was. They really didn't have a good sense of what their offer was. There's so many pieces of their business that they hadn't thought through, but they were throwing money against it with Facebook ads. And that I just felt totally out of integrity. That got me into wanting to offer more services. How can I help these people much earlier in the process? I started business coaching and working with people. And now I focus only on women, but helping women not only figure all that out so that they are rocking and rolling, but be prepared for growth so that they are expecting and they know how to grow. So that's how I got into it.
And I noticed I'm not sure if it was on your website or in your flyer, but it looks like you work with ambitious women.
I do. One of the taglines that I use is Solopreneur to CEO. Solo to CEO is part of my branding also. And the solopreneur is the woman who works alone, who's a one-woman band. And there are some women who are very happy staying there, which they're happy doing it all themselves. They're happy putting in a lot of hours, but that's fine with them because they're doing just as much business as they want to do. That's not my gal. I really want to be working with the women who have gotten to the point where their business, what they know they want to grow it, they don't know how to grow it, or they don't know how to get out of being the worker bee, which is where the solopreneur is, into being the true CEO. That's the woman I want to focus on, as the one who really does want to grow their business. So that's why I say ambitious.
You have a topic that we're going to dive into today. What got you here won't get you there. Steps to scale your business. This is one of my favorite topics, scaling your business.
Yeah.
Do you want to just start us off?
Yeah, I'm going to focus on women because that's who I work with. But most solopreneurs start their business with a passion, right? They love chiropractic, or they love doing hair, or they love coaching, or they love whatever. They love it, love it, love it. And the skills that it took to launch the business, the skills that it took to become the chiropractor, the skills that it took to do the work the first year are not the skills that are going to take them to go into growth mode. And it's a completely different mindset. It's a different skill set. It's a different focus. It's almost a 180 that has to happen. And I don't think that enough people, entrepreneurs, appreciate what a shift that is. So what got you here, meaning more power to you for putting in all that you put in for that first year or so that you've been in business, because we all know it's a whole lot of work, right? It's a tremendous amount of work and energy and anxiety and probably money and everything else. And you may be rocking and rolling, but if you want to go to that next level, you have to do things differently. It's, first of all, mindset. You have to be willing to stop being the worker bee. And that's the big mindset shift that has to happen. But also you have to be comfortable with things like being the boss, having a team, understanding how to delegate, understanding that it's not your job to do the work. It's your job to lead others to do the work. Those are huge shifts. So what got you here, which is all those skills that got you to be the fill in the blank, are not the skills that are going to allow you to grow. So that's the path that I talk about there.
Do you find that sometimes these ambitious women, they get hung up on that they're not prepared to be a leader?
Yeah.
So that in itself is a mind shift change, or do you feel like some people are just never going to get there?
That's a good question. I think a few things happen in that transition. And this happened to me. I can speak directly to it. When I was running my advertising agency, my media buying agency, I had 4 people working for me. So I was not a solopreneur at all. I had a team, but I was still acting as if I were working alone because I loved the doing of it. I loved being in the worker bee. I loved being in the trenches. I loved doing the ad buys. All the pieces of it, I loved. I kept myself in the doing piece of it. I was drowning. I was working 60 hours a week or more because I was so busy doing. And I delegated stuff like the accounting and the little bits here and the customer service, but I was still doing. Some women don't want to or know how to get out of the worker bee aspect. They love it, so they don't want to get out of it. Other women don't know what it means to be a leader. What's the difference between worker bee and being the leader? And that's the first thing, again, I had to learn. I hired a business coach at that point because I was drowning and I knew I couldn't grow. And I didn't know how to get out of that because it was just, if I knew what to do, I would have been doing it. So I had to get some outside help. And the first thing she taught me was stop doing the stuff. You've hired 4 people to do the work, get it off your desk. And my first response was, then what am I going to do? Because right now I'm spending 60 hours a week doing. So you're pulling that away from me. What am I going to do now? So that transition into understanding my job was to go out and get new clients. My job was to prepare the team for growth. My job was to continue to wipe my desk clean so that I could delegate so that someone else could take over from what I was doing, to develop the systems to allow that, to develop the team leadership in general and team development, all new skills to a solopreneur. They're like, they're going to be deer in the headlights staring at this new stuff. They don't know that they don't know it, or they have to develop the skill sets. So leadership is a different set of skills. Learning what you don't know and that you have to acquire those skills is a different thing. Some people have mindset issues all along the way. They don't know how to delegate. They don't know how to get out of their own way. As I said with my agency, if I'm not doing the work, what am I doing? That's a common thing. They might be thinking, I'm the only one who can do this. So how can I delegate this if I can do it better, faster than anybody else? Why should I bring on somebody to help me? So there are a lot of mindset issues that keep women from allowing themselves to grow. And those are some of the things that, again, that fall into that. What got you here will get you there.
You really help women work on their business rather than work in their business.
Yeah. And as fluffy as it sounds, the first place that we start is with mindset, because that's the foundation for everything. It's everything from understanding that you have to get out of being worker bee, allowing yourself, giving yourself permission, not be the worker bee. All of those other issues I touched on. Do you have a fear of delegation? Do you want to be liked? Do you not want to be the leader because you don't want to be a crabby, nasty boss? All of those mindset issues can really make people stumble and not be able to make progress. Those foundational issues are sometimes very hard to get at. But until you grapple with those issues, you can't get onto the tactics. I could say you need lead funnels, you need training modules for your team, you need blah, blah, blah. That's tactics. And all of those are very necessary. But until the mindset work is done, the tactics aren't going to make any difference. So it starts with that. And then we get into, when I work with my clients, we get into all the tactical stuff that has to happen.
Hey, entrepreneur, are you stressing out over your cash flow? Are you always confused by your bank balance? Well, you know what? You're not alone. Lots of business owners struggle with this, but you don't have to. I'm Heather Zaitzwolf. Besides being a podcast host, I'm also a CPA. I can help you get your cash flow under control so that it's predictable and so you're profitable. Learn how by setting up a discovery call with me now. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes. All right, now back to the show. One of the things I find with my clients is that maybe they have enough to have a virtual assistant or whatever. So it's trying to find this happy balance of when they can really stop being the worker bee and let go of that. When you're working with these ambitious women, are they at that point where they can already just turn over all of the work?
No, typically, no. Otherwise, they would have done it. They would have written a check and gotten someone in the door. Mostly for the women who are tearing their hair, I call it hair on fire because they're working so hard and they're doing it all themselves. We work on identifying what are some of the things that are on your desk that you would gladly get someone else to do, whether it's your invoicing or you're keeping up with your emails or your calendaring or something. And then let's find a contractor who can do that for you 5 hours a month or 10 hours a month, something that's very inexpensive. And what that does is it gets that task off your desk, but also it becomes addictive. When you see that you can get something that you hate off your desk, it gets done. It's off your desk. It didn't cost that much. Then this process of what else can I get off my desk starts. It starts an addictive quality that I say addictive loosely, but you start to see what not being the worker bee can do for you and your business, but it can be baby steps. But I'm always encouraging my clients to start as small as they have to start. Hire an intern to do your social media and get that one off your desk. Hire an intern who's studying to be a CPA to give you 10 hours a month to do your bookkeeping or something. The sooner you can get accustomed to and wanting to what I call clear the desk, get stuff off the desk, the more you will be able to take more and more steps to get there. So it's not at all about hiring someone right off the bat. It's step by step bringing in additional help to help you figure out how you can grow and how you can hire your first employee, because it's usually a stepped process.
Bringing on an employee is one of the biggest responsibilities.
It's huge. But I think many women, solopreneurs, the first thing they say is, I can't afford to hire someone. You certainly couldn't afford to hire someone full time. Of course you can't. But that doesn't mean you can't get help in your business. One of the exercises I put them through is keep a journal of what you're doing all day, every day for a week. So you have a look at how you're spending your time. And then secondly, of that, what are you doing a ton of that you hate? What are you doing that you don't do well? Because we all have strengths and weaknesses. And if you hate doing the books, or if you're crummy at it, there's a big red light there that says you might want to get some help with this. If this was my situation where I know how very important social media is for my business, and 3 years ago, I kept finding myself not doing it or doing it very inconsistently. So one of my first hires was getting a social media manager in 5 hours a week to help me. Very inexpensive. The other thing, when I first started business coaching, my very first contractor was a copy editor. I didn't need a VA. I needed a copy editor because I was putting out a tremendous amount of content. So I was blogging and I was doing all kinds of stuff. I'm a horrible copywriter. I'm okay, but everything I did have typos in, and I just thought I can't go out in the world with my content if it looks terrible. So I hired a copy editor to clean it up and make it sparkle. And that was the best money I ever spent. And again, copy editors are very inexpensive. And I think for something like $30 a month, she was making me look brilliant. Those are the kinds of steps that can help women start to really get out of solopreneur-ness and into becoming the CEO.
And if you look at the return on investment it probably, I mean, that freed up not only your time, but it also, like you said, she was offering copywriting, a skill that you didn't necessarily have. So it probably improved those blogs and posts and everything you were doing.
Fantastic. Plus the fact that it would take me 4 hours, what it took her 10 minutes to do. That's an exaggeration, but usually someone will come in with the expertise. They do it better, faster. And again, that's another one of those aha moments, right? Oh my God, that's so fabulous. That someone else can do this. I don't have to do it and someone else does it better. And it's very cost effective. So yeah, the ROI is usually there.
I love the idea of keeping track of what you're spending your actual time doing. I've been doing time blocking and I've been really trying to be very mindful about, okay, I spend this amount of time on developing certain skills or certain things that I want to work on my business. But I find that emails will come in and I'll answer them and then I get pulled away. Is this sort of journaling of your time? Do you feel like, is that something that you've examined with your clients and then figure out, okay, this is where you really need to be spending your time. This is what you're going to delegate or?
Yeah, absolutely. Time blocking is a big conversation that we have when I work with clients. When I say you want to start auditing or journaling what you're doing now, that's just, as you said, for the point of looking at how am I spending my time? When I go to update my Facebook page, am I lost for an hour and I lose that time? If I'm responding to emails every time an email comes in, or if I respond to emails every time I don't want to do what I'm doing. So it's just another way of procrastinating. Just letting yourself see that is a good wake-up call. And once that audit is done, and sometimes we don't do a physical audit, maybe it's just we sit down and take a look at how you feel you spend your time, then we carve out a time blocking system for them. What works for you? First of all, are you a morning person or you're an afternoon person or an evening person? And let's time block according to that. Secondly, Ms. CEO to be, what are the things that you need to be getting done? You need to be prospecting. You need to be marketing. You need to be engaging with all those potential leads out there. Is there a time block of a couple of hours a week or a day where you're in prospect mode? If not, what are you doing? If you are finding that you are doing the invoicing for a couple of hours when your time would be better spent prospecting, that's another red light there. There's your first contractor that could be helping you do that. So the time blocking thing also identifies, as you said, where are your leaks? Checking email is a huge leak. Voicemails. I stopped using Voxer because I couldn't stand being that on call. Managing your time so that you're in charge of what you're doing when is a big piece of that, of taking control of your business so that you can grow.
The mind shift part of it, how I'm sure that everybody is different, but to change their mind shift around becoming a leader and kind of giving up that whole worker bee mentality, how long does this take, this whole mind shift, typically?
What an interesting question. It can take weeks because someone is so ready to make the move, or it can take a year. Who knows? Really is, to what degree are you completely sucked into and adoring the worker bee stuff? I loved the media buying. I loved putting together the spreadsheets. I loved all that, but it had to get painful enough that I could walk away from it. So that happened for me very quickly. I have several clients now that I'm working with that really transitioned out of the worker bee very quickly because they were so ready to be done of it. Other people, it just takes longer. They don't know what's on the other side. They don't know what it would look like. They don't know how to ooch out of it as opposed to just being cut off from being the worker bee. So it depends on a person's personality and how much they want to put into it.
When you're changing your mind shift, does imposter syndrome, does that ever come into play?
Always. And to be honest, I think imposter syndrome never goes away. The voice gets quieter and quieter. But anytime we reach for a new height, we're stretching ourselves, the opportunity for imposter syndrome to come back in is huge. It's one of those mindset issues that can keep a woman or someone very stuck because it's a lack of self-confidence. It's all this self-defeating language. It's all, I couldn't possibly, I can't. All of that, which keeps people, you create your own ceiling when you're wallowing in imposter syndrome. And so we spend time working on if you're in imposter syndrome, there's certainly no shame because we've all been in it and we'll all be in it again. But what are some of the tools that we can talk about that we can give you to get out of imposter syndrome, at least through this episode, that will help you with the next episode. The more that I've grown in my business, the more I've stretched in my business, the more I know that imposter syndrome is going to come back up because I'm doing something I've never done before, or it's more risky than it was before. But as I get older and as I've gotten more tools in my backpack, I can deal with it better. Tools to deal with imposter syndrome are really important.
Hey there, this is Heather. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if you are, if you wouldn't mind, please hit the subscribe button now. That way you'll never miss an episode. All right, now back to the podcast. I wanted to ask you about on this handout that you have this great handout online. And on it, you talk about shiny object syndrome.
Right. Some people love what's new and exciting and different. Some people are very busy looking at their competition to see what they're doing and why the competition is doing and why they aren't doing it as well. Podcasting. Maybe I should be doing a podcast, you think. Everyone else is podcasting. Shouldn't I be doing this? So being distracted from your own plan to go from here to there, you've got a plan, a marketing plan, a growth plan, or whatever it is, maybe all of the above. And if you allow yourself to be distracted from that by bright, shiny objects, you will get off track. Sometimes it's hard to see. Learning a new skill, learning how to use LinkedIn as a prospecting tool might feel to you as the potential CEO as being a great use of your time. Maybe it isn't. Maybe this is where you get someone else in who could do that 5 hours a month for you, so you don't have to do that. Another area where this comes in that just makes me laugh is if you are, or your client is, or someone is someone who just loves to be on the bleeding edge of everything. They couldn't get on TikTok fast enough. They couldn't, people who just need to be on the bleeding edge. That's wonderful unless it takes you away from the momentum that you need to maintain to get the growth that you need. So that's what I mean by bright, shiny object. You've got to stay the course. First, you've got to have a course, right? You've got to have a strategy for growth. And then you've got to be able to stay the course. You can be influenced by outside people or outside ideas, but you can't be knocked off track by bright, shiny objects.
You had in your handout, the only one who can do it is me.
That's a big one. And it comes from a place of not being able to trust other people to do what you already know you can do well. There's an inability to let go of that. How that translates, though, is no one can do it but me. When you speak to that person who's stuck in that spot about the possibility of delegating, it's this resistance. No one can do that as well as I can. So this is another one of those mindset issues that creates your own ceiling. If you think you're the only one who can do it, you're never going to get out of the work or be whole that you're in. And again, it's a learning process. It's a letting go process. It's a giving yourself permission process. It just has to be unlearned.
And I would imagine that part of it also is that they think, oh, it's just going to take a long time to explain this or to train somebody. And is it worth it? I've been in situations where that seemed like that was the case. Like, let me do it. I'll do it.
But that's all part of being an entrepreneur. The short answer is, It is going to take you longer to train them. It is going to take you longer to think about how to train that person and what they have to learn. As we all know, an employee or someone that's giving you help is only going to be as good as the training is. So you have to think about, what are you asking them to do? Can you train them correctly to do it? Can you communicate your expectations so that they can fulfill your expectations? That takes time. But once you do it once, you don't have to do it again. So if you're training a VA, as an example, a virtual assistant, once you get the system of how to train them down, hopefully you've recorded videos so you don't have to explain it up, down, and sideways again. When that VA leaves, because they usually do at some point, you've got your training behind you. You've got it all set up. It's easier the second time, but also it does take time, but the time you'll get back once that person is doing what you've assigned them to do, again, it's those aha moments. Oh my God, I didn't know I had so much time to do whatever it is. The other thing that was the most mind-blowing thing for me when I started acting like a leader and training people to do what I wanted them to do was that they did it better than I did. I'm not a detail person, and it's been my Achilles heel my whole career. I tend to hire people that are far more detailed. Once I handed something off to someone else, they would take that task and just fine tune it and make it hum, where I would have been clunking along. So it does take time, but the payoff is huge. But that's, again, you got to just put on your big girl panties. You got to know that you're part of being an entrepreneur is training. And it does take time, but unless you allow yourself the training piece of it, you'll never reap the benefits of being able to offload stuff.
I wonder if sometimes people are reluctant to hand it off because of what you were talking about earlier, where people think, if I'm not doing it, what am I doing?
Yes. And I think that's very subtle and very hidden. And I think and I'm speaking from personal experience, it was a huge fear. What am I going to do with my time? Why do I get up in the morning? Why am I here now except to write the paychecks? What is my purpose in this business? And until I could see that a CEO has a whole host of duties that they are responsible for that no one else can do, it was terrifying. What am I going to do? That was, again, one of the skills that I had to learn from a business coach to educate me about once you're not doing all that stuff. There is a whole new role out there for you. You just haven't even had a chance to see it. But it's very haunting for people because people want to be needed. They want to be wanted. They want to be essential. And the only way they know how to be essential is to do the worker-bee stuff. Yeah, that's a big issue for some women.
I think for me, at least, I get so much in my head. So working with business coaches is a great way to get out of your head. And like you were talking about, have someone that holds you accountable.
Mm-hmm. And just getting out of your head, that's such a good point. As I said, in the program, we have 2 calls a week, one of which is a brainstorming call. And so many women end up collaborating with each other. We'll put an issue out there. Someone will say, I'm having a horrible time with fill in the blank. And the amount of collaboration that comes not from me, but from the other members of the group is worth its weight in gold because everyone has a different perspective. Everyone has different areas of expertise. And the whole is much bigger than the sum of its parts. It's just amazing. It allows us to get out of our own heads because the solutions we have are the only solutions we have. As I said before, when I was in that situation where I was running a media agency and I didn't know how to get myself out of this deep hole that I had dug for myself, if I had known what to do, I would have been doing it. I needed someone from the outside to say, wait, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Don't do this. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah. And as entrepreneurs, we live in a silo. And so it's nice to have some sort of outside, even if you're in a large company, you probably have coworkers that you can talk to and talk through issues and be like, okay, what do you think of this? Spitball something. But
absolutely,
women can come to your group and help each other out. That's great.
It happens all the time. And sometimes you don't know that you're stuck in your own head. You think you've got the perfect solution or you can't figure out a solution. And it doesn't occur to you that this is just your own thinking, that there's another way. And so it takes, as you said, just spitballing, just throwing ideas out there, just hearing from, and the input you might get from other people might be completely off base, but at least it's another solution. It's another idea that you wouldn't have thought of before. It's really helpful.
So when you help your clients, are you mapping out a process for the entire year? You look 6 months into the future. How long is this timeline?
I have a program, the Solo to CEO program, which is 9 months long. And within the program, there are 10 modules. I'll keep working on it. I'll keep adding to it. But we walk through each module, which is another elevation in their process of going from solo to being the CEO. We spend a lot of time on mindset. We talk about time management as being crucial for being a CEO. We talk about building a team without breaking the bank. There are 10 modules, as I say, that are all steps. They don't have to be done one after the other, but each of them has to be dealt with so they can make the transition to become really the true leader of what they're doing.
Is this part of, if they hire you as a coach, this is part of the program, or is this an additional program?
So I do 2 things. I do one-to-one coaching where I work specifically with you. Let's talk about where you are in your business, where you want to go and what's keeping you from getting there, and let's get you there. It's just one-on-one. I've got a 6-session package and a 12-second package. And if someone wants to renew, they can always do that. So that's when I'm specifically working with someone. And that's when I am available to them 24/7. That's when I will take Voxer calls. But my program is 9 months, and it's a huge amount of content material that's on a website that they get to plug into, and it's tutorials and videos and downloads and worksheets, and to make them go through the process of learning what I want them to learn. And then we have 2 calls every single week. One is to discuss the coaching itself, the content that we're doing together. And the second is an accountability call. And that is where I ask my clients to declare what they're going to do as a goal for the following week. And I'm big on baby steps. I'm big on just putting one foot in front of the other so that we are getting you going forward. And then we talk about, if you didn't hit your goals, what came up? What can we brainstorm? What can we resolve? Let's talk about celebrations and challenges, and then declare your goal for next week. That accountability piece is what most solopreneurs are missing, because they don't answer to anybody. So if you want to watch Netflix for half the day, who's going to tell you no? And it's hard to maintain momentum if you are a solopreneur. It's hard, especially now with all the junk that's going on in the world right now. It's hard to stay focused. That accountability piece is just huge. And I've found that it makes all the difference in the world with the women that I work with. And then we also have a Facebook group where they can continue the conversation. I have 2 Facebook groups. One is open to the world, open to any woman and entrepreneur, and that's called Solopreneur to Entrepreneur. Yeah. The other is called Solo to CEO, and that's just from people who are in the program. That's by invitation only if you're a paid client. But the Solopreneur to Entrepreneur, the more the merrier. I just want as many women. It's a very collaborative group, and the women there are very invested in not just growing their own business, but helping others grow theirs. If you look at the group, you'll see there's lots of interaction. There's lots of fun. I'm very proud of it because the culture of it is very supportive.
That's nice. That sounds like a great opportunity for people, especially if it's free. That's awesome.
It is free. Absolutely. Yeah.
I do also want to mention that you go live on Facebook. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I used to blog every week. And again, in assessing what I do well and what I don't do well, I told you I'm a horrible copywriter. I realized that I'm much better on camera, or I'm much more comfortable just talking than I am writing. Gosh, about 3 or 4 years ago, I started doing a Facebook Live, or when I first started doing Facebook Lives, pretty consistently. And then I realized that the secret to success is consistency. And so I go online every single Wednesday at noon in my group. And I broadcast in all of my groups and on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and I'm all over the place. And I provide either an interview with someone who's interesting, or a training, or a personal point of view on an issue that is keeping people from growing, or just a whole bunch of things. But I'm there for half an hour to 45 minutes every single Wednesday. I record them all. I upload them to YouTube. So they're available if anybody wants to check back.
Oh, awesome. So do you have a YouTube channel then?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll put that in the show notes as well. And I'll have all kinds of information in the show notes for how people can work with you. And
Super.
You have a lot of great links.
This was great. I hope it's been helpful to your audience. I love working with people to help them get out of the worker bee mode, if that's what they want to do. If they're happy there, more power to them. But I can help them get out of the hair on fire aspect. So, Heather, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being on my show. This has been really fun. Thank you so much.
Heather, my pleasure. This has been very much fun for me too. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, this is Heather. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you found value in the show, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a rating on iTunes, or just simply tell a friend about it. And if you're interested in learning more about my profit advising and coaching, please set up a discovery call by using the link in the show notes. All right. Thanks so much, and see you next time.